Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Andrew Fairbairn, and I am the President and WA Director of Physical Disability Australia, from now on known as PDA. It is wonderful to have you join us for this important and informative event. I'd like to begin on behalf of PDA by acknowledging the traditional owners of the lands in which we dwell and to pay our respects to elders past and present. PDA also acknowledge people with disability, past and present, those who are living full and complete lives, and those who have needs that are not yet being met. We ask you to reflect on this and to work with us to bring about the changes that will give all people with disability an opportunity to live an ordinary life. PDA welcomes you to today's webinar. We are sure that you will find it beneficial and helpful. The National Disability Insurance Schemes Quality and Safeguards Commission is the independent Commonwealth Government agency providing a nationally consistent approach to quality and safeguards of NDIS services. Its role is to regulate the NDIS market, promote safety and quality services, resolve problems, and identify areas for improvement. In this webinar, Fran Vicary will talk about the role of the NDIS Commission and your right to feel safe and receive good quality service from your service providers. She will outline how the NDIS Commission works with NDIS participants, service providers, workers, advocates, and community representatives to improve the quality and safety of support and services that you receive. As the dedicated national regulator of providers of NDIS supports and services, the NDIS Commission is an independent Australian government agency within the social services portfolio. The NDIS Commission is not the National Disability Insurance Agency and does not make decisions about access to the NDIS, funding, or what is in a participant's NDIS plan. Those decisions are made by the National Disability Insurance Agency. As mentioned, Fran Vicary is the NDIS Commission's Director of Engagement. She was previously Queensland's State Director, leading a team of complaints, reportable incidents, and compliance staff. Fran's wealth of experience in the disability sector also includes positions in the vocational education sector, women's health, as the Chief Executive Officer of Queenslanders with Disability Network, directorship and management roles with providers and not-for-profit organisations. We are extremely grateful to Fran for offering her time, her knowledge and her experience to this webinar, and we're sure that you will benefit from Fran's informative presentation. I now hand you over to Fran Vicary, and thank you all for joining us at this webinar. Thank you, Fran.
Thank you, Andrew. Hello, everyone, and welcome. So I would like to echo Andrew's welcome and acknowledge it, and also acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands on which we meet. The Quality and Safeguards Commission acknowledges people's ownership of the land and their enduring connection to the land. We also acknowledge people with disabilities with whom we work every day to try to improve the quality of services that they get. And there will be more about that a little later on in our discussion. My assistants today, Natasha and Simon and Andrew, are actually monitoring the chat and will give me a heads up if I need to stop and answer questions. So I'll just go on with the presentation about the commission. So it's our job to help NDIS participants to receive good quality service, and we're currently looking at what good quality services mean. We're here to help keep NDIS participants safe, but more importantly, we're here to work with you to understand how you want to have your rights respected and your rights upheld. And we're here to do that in a human rights framework. We register NDIS providers. We also regulate unregistered providers through the Code of Conduct. And I go into that a little bit later. When we work with providers, the NDIS Commission is there to explain the rules to providers and to make sure that they follow them. I just want to be clear that the NDIS legislation is actually the first time that the Commission actually has some really strong regulatory powers to be able to ban workers, to be able to ban providers, and to be able to impose other enforceable actions. So that is why when I say we explain the rules to providers, the second half of that sentence, make sure they follow them, is actually really important in terms of how and what the Commission does. We handle complaints from anyone about the quality and safety of services and support, and we support providers to deal with problems and complaints. Okay, this is a little diagram about the functions of the Commission. You can see in the middle of the diagram there's a green dot called the NDIS QNS, or the Quality and Safeguarding Framework. The NDIS Quality and Safeguarding Framework was developed and agreed by the Commonwealth Organisation of Government, or COAG, and it actually is up for renewal this year. So as a Commission, we're going to start conversations like this one with stakeholders like you to talk about what you want the framework to look like and what's important to you. Around the purple, the outside of that dot, as a purple dot, the circle, they talk about things like the NDIS Code of Conduct, which we use to regulate services and workers, the worker screening policy, which is used for workers, the reportable incidents and the reportable incident framework, which says when providers need to tell us when things happen. Again, this is the highest level of reporting we've ever had in this country. Then we look at complaints handling. So we take complaints, we develop capacity and build capacity with providers, with the sector, and with stakeholders. When I say the sector, I mean disability providers, people who work in the sector, and also allied health professionals. The NDIS Quality and Safeguards Commission looks after registration and quality assurance through an external audit relationship with auditors. We have monitoring and investigation and enforcement powers. We also have behaviour support responsibility in terms of authorising regulated restrictive practices and requiring the reporting of unregulated restrictive practices. If you were watching the media this week, you will note that the Commission with the Aged Care Commission and the Health and Quality Commission actually issued a joint statement on the use of psychotropic medication and saying that we need to monitor this and that we are kind of thinking that medication is overused to control behaviour. And that is something that we're working with jointly across those areas of government to look at all of the areas of vulnerability. Okay, I updated this slide recently because we now got over 500,000 participants across Australia. So we've got 502,413 participants in total. That was at December 21 last year. Now in Queensland, we've got over 102,000. New South Wales, we've got 153,000. Victoria, we've got 133,000. And then we go down as we go through the other states and territories. It's important to understand that the Commission is here for each and every one of those participants, and that we're a national regulator across all NDIS funded supports. Okay, the NDIS Quality and Safeguarding Framework, which I spoke about earlier and which we're reviewing, is about there to support your human rights. So it links to the Convention on the Rights of People with Disability, for whom Australia has signed an optional protocol, which means that all legislation should reflect the Convention. So the NDIS Commission, the National Disability Insurance Scheme Act is a really good example of that, because the objects of the Act are almost identical to the articles of the Convention on the Rights of People with Disability. That's what I think is really important as a person with disability, that we see those connections from rights statements to national legislation to national regulation. The framework also talks about the ability of people to make decisions and to have choice and control. And it sets out that participants have a right to get good quality services, to be safe and to be respected, which is really important. The Code of Conduct. Now, I'm slightly weird here because the Code of Conduct is a little 8-page booklet of rules that sit under the National Disability Insurance Scheme Act. And it sets out that anyone working in an NDIS funded capacity, so registered or unregistered workers, must follow the Code of Conduct. That if they don't follow the rules and the Code of Conduct, anyone can complain to the Commission about it. And if providers or workers don't follow the Code of Conduct, we can ban them. We do, and we have, and we will continue to do so. The elements of the Code of Conduct on the right say to respect individual rights and self-determination, to respect privacy, to act with integrity, honesty, and transparency, to deliver services safely and competently, to ensure quality and safety, and to prevent and respond to violence, neglect, abuse, and exploitation. I'm going to go into a few of these more deeply because it's important that you actually can understand why these statements are so important. So we think about acting with honesty, integrity, and transparency. If we've got a provider who has overcharged, or a support worker who has stolen some money from a participant, we actually have used that section of the Code of Conduct to ban that support work and take action. It doesn't matter if the person has or has not gone to law enforcement, and sometimes people don't want to go to law enforcement because they feel that they just don't want to do that. We always suggest as a commission that people have a right to contact law enforcement, that is the police in your state or territory, but sometimes people don't, and that does not stop us from taking action. We've also taken action around quality and safety. You see in the media where we're taking action about a hot water policy and advice because we found that there were too many incidents involving hot water burns and misuse. So that's something that we're taking action. Oh, by the way, all of the actions of the Quality and Safeguards Commission are actually published on our website. They're a bit hard to find sometimes. I can guarantee you that they're there because the legislation says that the Commissioner must publish all enforceable action that is taken. Another really good safeguard for everyone. Okay, registered providers or provider registration. So we work with providers, with registered providers to make sure their services are safe and good. Again, safe and good are something that we're working as a commission and that we want to work with you on thinking about what that looks like and what that means. So not every provider needs to be registered, and it depends upon what services and support they offer. For example, if your NDIS plan is managed by the NDIA or agency managed, you need to use registered providers. If your plan is self-managed or plan managed, then you can choose to use unregistered providers or registered providers. All registered providers need to follow the NDIS practice standards that are set by the Commission, and they set out what standards we're looking for. We're also looking to update those to reflect people's wants and needs, and to also reflect what we've learned from operating for the last 3 years. Worker screening. So NDIS worker screening tech started rolling out on the 1st of February last year. It seems like a long time ago. And it started in the Northern Territory on the 1st of July. It sets a national standard for all workers to make sure they're safe to work with people with disabilities. It's important to remember that only registered providers need to ensure that workers have a valid clearance or worker screening check. But if you are self-managed or plan managed, you can access the worker screening database by registering on our website to ensure that your workers also have the worker screening check. Okay, what happens when things go wrong? And sadly they do go wrong, but the plus side of that is that now that we've got the NDIS legislation with the Quality and Safeguards Commission, we can actually more effectively take action. So if providers or workers do the wrong thing, we can and do take action to fix it or to stop it from happening again. Some things that we do include work with providers and you to deal with a complaint, offer training or information, or stop the provider or the support worker from providing NDIS support. That's called a banning order or deregistration and banning order. So the Commission actually has the power to do that. Anyone can make a complaint to the Commission. So Joe Bloggs, the garbologist, you, your friends, your family, your support workers, anyone can make a complaint to the Commission about any aspect of NDIS funded supports and services, and the NDIS Quality and Safeguards Commission will look into those complaints and seek to resolve them with the complainant. It's also important to remember that you can make anonymous complaints, so you don't need to give your name or details. The only difference between how we address an anonymous complaint is a complaint where you give your name and details is that we don't get back to the person who's anonymous. They receive the same important prioritization as any other complaint. Okay, so what can you complain about? Any aspect of NDIS funded services that don't meet your expectations or that are not safe. You can also complain to the NDIS Quality and Safeguards Commission about how an NDIS provider has acted when you complain. The complaint process, as I talked about a minute ago, is that we'll work with the complainant to determine how best to deal with it. So the process will include speaking to you or the complainant and the provider, seeking the views of the people which is affected by the issues raised. And can I say that I have actually always authorised travel by the complaints team where it's been requested to go and visit a person if they need to do that. And in some cases, it's just been to be able to sit with the person and to gain their input about what happened. And that's been really extremely important in resolving the complaint and in meeting the needs of the person with disability. We'll also educate the provider about their obligations. We can facilitate meetings and offer conciliation. We can request information and explanations from providers about what happened, what they did to respond, what they plan to do next time. So that it's a learning process. And we can also require providers to take specific action. In some cases, we will refer the complaint to investigative or take compliance action. I've seen some complaints where our investigations team have been involved and we ended up banning the person. Okay. Every NDIS provider must have an effective complaints management and resolution process. And as I said, all complaints made to the NDIS Commission are taken seriously, and we work with you to resolve them. This is a diagram about who complained and the numbers of people who complained to the Commission. So the top number on 27% is other, including guardians and advocates. The next top number on 26% is person with a disability, so individual participant. The next equal top number on 21 is family members or friends of a person with disability or support workers and service providers. The next number is government bodies on 5%. So you can see that we're really hearing the voice of people with disability, their advocates and guardians in our complaint numbers. To make a complaint, this is probably the most important slide of the note. To make a complaint, people can call the 1-800 number, which is 1-800-035-544, or go to our website and make a complaint there, which is ndiscommission.gov.au. Complaints that we don't deal with are complaints about actions taken by the National Disability Insurance Agency or the NDIA about decisions about eligibility, funding, or what's their person's plan. Disability services or supports are not NDIS funded, for example, health, education, or transport. Decisions of courts, tribunals, or coroners, and complaints about the NDIA can be handled by the NDIA or can be referred to the Commonwealth Ombudsman. We can and always do help connect a person who's making a complaint to the right organisation. Reportable incidents. There's a requirement in our legislation for all registered providers to tell the NDIS Scholar and Safeguards Commission when serious things happen to an NDIS participant that they're supporting. These include the death of a participant, serious injury of a participant, abuse or neglect, unauthorized sexual or physical contact, sexual misconduct, including grooming for sexual activity, and the unauthorized use of restrictive practices. I just go back to that one to actually understand what some of these mean. If we look at serious injury, for example, serious injury is if someone requires hospitalization. So say they require stitches or they have concussion or bruising, then that needs to be reported because something has happened. Abuse or neglect can take many forms, but it can also be things that you would not think of, like the lack of adequate nutrition, lack of personal care to ensure hygiene. That kind of thing is abuse and neglect. We have and we do take action about that. The behaviour support. So the positive behaviour support framework, which all behaviour support practitioners must be capable are working under and be actually certified by our capability framework. It's a list of rules for workers to make sure people with behaviours of concern, which are often their way of communicating, live better lives and do the things that they want to do and are respected and listened to for what their needs are. Behaviour support providers must be registered with the NDIS Commission. They must give us a copy of all behaviour support plans and they must tell us when they use the registered restrictive practices. This is the positive behaviour support capability framework is what registered practitioners must adhere to, and behaviour support providers must lodge behaviour support plans with the Commission and notify us regularly of the use of a restrictive practice. If they use an unauthorised restrictive practice, they need to notify the Commission within 7 days under the Reportable Incident rules. If they use a regulated restrictive practice, they need to report it monthly under the Behaviour Support Plan. Each of the different states and territories has a restrictive practice authorisation approach, and those apply still, but they work in close connection with the NDIS Commission's senior practitioner who's on our executive leadership team and who is very strongly connected to the states and territory governments. Okay, I've spoken a bit about the use of unauthorised restrictive practices, and this is a slide that indicates the differences between a reportable incident and a non-reportable incident. So things like the use of seclusion, which is locking someone in a room or place or implying that someone can't move from a room or place. So if someone is told to sit in the corner, even though they could move from that corner, the instruction is understood to imply seclusion, and it is seen as seclusion. Chemical restraint is the overuse of chemicals. It might be PRN, it might be psychotropic medication that I mentioned earlier in the joint statement about psychotropic medication, that kind of thing. Mechanical restraint is the use of a tie-down strap or a seatbelt or an arm restraint or a head restraint. Physical restraint is just that, holding someone down. Environmental constraint is that lock gates or the windows, locked doors in a house, and also that restricting someone's access to something like a food or an object. Now, not reportable are when these are used in accordance with the approved behaviour support plan, when there is applicable authorisation as per your state or territory authorisation process. If you or anyone you know requires assistance, please contact the behaviour support team in your state or territory. They're really good. They talk to a lot of people and nothing will surprise them. Here's how you can contact us at the Commission. There are contact details. Here's some of the resources that we've had. So we've got resources for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people about speaking up, choosing a quality provider, making a complaint, that kind of thing. Okay, question. I'm going to stop sharing if that's okay with people, because I'm really interested in answering questions and engaging in a bit of a dialogue or chat.
Thanks very much for that, Fran. A great presentation, as always. I noticed that there are two questions in the Q&A section down the bottom there. I will read those out, and then I will look at the people who have raised their hands, and we can answer these questions as we go. How does that sound?
Sure.
Okay, so Alyssa Newburn asks, in relation to the use of psychotropic medications within aged care, how can the Quality and Safeguards Commission support behaviour support practitioners in the reduction and elimination of medications where it appears to be out of proportion with the level of risk of behaviour, yet the medical professional, generic geriatric psychiatrist is not open to considering a reduction based on a 10-minute conversation when the behaviour support practitioner has limited options outside of basic advocacy and presentation of information and data that is potentially not the most appropriate option?
Eliza, that's a very fulsome question. Alyssa, I think it is. Yeah. Alyssa, that's a very fulsome question. I would say that the statement on the overuse of psychotropic medication is an important step there. I would also say that if it is in relation to an NDIS participant in an aged care home, like a younger person in a residential aged care facility, the Commission actually now has jurisdiction over that, and we would require that provider to actually report that to us. One of the reasons why we've got the joint statement is that the Australian government departments and agencies are moving to something that we call regulatory alignment, which basically means that all Australian government agencies are going to regulate in the same way. Because we're a new commission and we've got relatively new legislation, the NDIS Quality and Safeguards Commission is actually going to be heavily involved in that regulatory alignment, because a lot of our processes are more advanced and more of a human rights focus than a lot of existing processes. So in answer to your question, I'd say, yes, I understand that there's some problems, but there is some work occurring to actually address some of these problems.
Thanks for that, Fran. The next question is from an anonymous attendee. What is the Quality and Safeguards Commission doing to improve timeframes around the registration process for businesses, especially in areas such as behaviour support, which requires registration and there are chronic workforce shortages?
So the NDIS Quality and Safeguards Commission is doing a lot of work on registration, and we're working with our registration team to actually look at and address questions of registration. I understand that there are thin markets in some places, and I also understand that there are some providers who want to deliver behaviour support services or practitioners who want to do behaviour support plans. We're working with each individual through the registration process to address that. With regard to the workforce shortages, That's also something that we're working with through our workforce capability framework, which is available on a slightly different website to the NDIS Commission.
So steps are being taken to make the registration process a bit shorter. What do you think would be the average delay?
I think, Simon, it takes 3 to 6 months for a current registration to be progressed. That's from the date of application to the person getting their scope of registration, getting connected with an auditor and that kind of thing. I think that as we work with providers this year and with participants and other stakeholders to look at our processes, might actually come up with some solutions for the registration process. We need to remember that we don't want to trade off the need to safeguard with the need for registration quickness.
Thanks for that. That's a good answer. So that's all the questions that we got on the Q&A button down the bottom there. Can we see where people's hands are raised?
Can I have a few moments to talk about what we're doing at the Commission with the future state? Yes,
Sure.
Andrew's moving. So we have a new commissioner who started on the 10th of January this year. So her name is Tracy Mackey, and she's really interesting to work with. She's got good knowledge of the sector. She works really naturally with people with disability. She has said to us all in the Commission, staff included, we need to look at a 5-year future vision for the Commission. Now that is what we're calling the future state process. So the future state for the NDIS Quality and Safeguards Commission sets out a vision of where we want to be in 5 years and how we get there. It asks questions about quality, about human rights, about what is good service delivery, about what people want and what people think the Commission should be doing. As the Director for Engagement on a national level, I'm going to be going out to people in April, May and June to actually gather wide input from you about how you want the Commission to address certain things. So I want to offer in this webinar an open invitation to people to give us real ideas.
Thanks for that, Fran. I'm just wondering if any of the participants who are watching this webinar would like to type some questions into chat that Fran might be able to answer. I noticed that Alyssa has said that she hopes you come to regional settings like Mildura for your trips. So a trip to Sunraysia might be appreciated there.
Alyssa, it's actually really interesting. I was talking to a Sydney academic today called John Gilroy. He's going all over New South Wales and Victoria, and we were talking about jumping in his highlights and going out and talking to people. So we might just be hitting the road. You never know your luck. Alyssa, I also want to say, and not just to you, Elizabeth, to everyone who lives in not a capital city, I actually know a lot about living in the country. I was born and lived outside of Croydon in the Gulf of Carpentaria for the first 11 years of my life. So I actually know what it's like to not live in a closely settled region. And when I'm looking at things, looking at solutions, I often think about what would work where I was born, where the nearest neighbour was like 2 hours away. So it's those kinds of thought processes that we need to co-design for and to work with people to get your creative solutions to your problem and make sure that our framework and our legislation actually incorporates those. Hey Tim, we won't forget to come to Tanzania.
Thank you for that comment, Elisa. That means a lot. She's just said thank you for, we're very lucky to have such strong advocates as yourself stepping up into the disability population.
Thanks, Alyssa. Does anyone else have any other questions or ways that they'd like to be involved?
Just before we started, Fran, you were talking about ways that people with disabilities could get involved in some of the work that the Commission does. Have you got the capacity to expand on that? Are you allowed to yet?
So that's what I've been talking about, but it's also, if you got an idea or something, can I just type in the chat and see if I can give you the address for the engagement team? Because if you got an idea or you want to contact us, the way you do it is to contact engagement, and it is letting me type at NDIS commission.gov.au. So that's the way that you can actually contact us. Can you see that, or did it only go to?
It's on the chat, so I'm not sure if it'll appear on the recording or not, but we can certainly put it in the link when we post it on our YouTube channel.
Yeah, I think
so she can see it in the chat. So yes,
she can't see it in the chat because I only went to the other people. I'll just do it again. Just hang on.
If you go down the bottom there and click to everyone, that might be the way to do it. Where it says two down the bottom.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Yep.
Can I also ask Andrew and Simon, if you're bringing people together for other meetings or that kind of thing, like I know that you got a social chat or something, that's another thing that when we're doing the stakeholder engagement, we could actually join those social hours if you invite us to gain people's input and that kind of thing.
Thank you for that offer. We'll definitely take you up that. I know Natasha's in the background and hopefully she can hear me, but what we'll also do is we'll also get our youth hangout group to take advantage of that offer as well, because it's not something that's just about us old folk, it's also about the young ones as well. So I appreciate that offer. Thank you very much, and we'll definitely take you up on that.
That's right. And then can I also add something that this is about, we're also looking at not just NDIS participants, but broader all people with disabilities and what the Commission does around basic human rights and basic rights of people in society who identify as having a disability, and as a commission, while we're regulating service provision that is NDIS funded, we also have a slightly broader social remit to actually have some statements that speak to the experiences of the broader population of people with disabilities.
Okay. So would that be, for an example, folk who are too old to access NDIS?
It could be folk who are too old to access NDIS. It could be folk who are not, their impairment is not significant enough to actually need ongoing NDIS support.
Okay, cool.
Alyssa's got another question. So does the Commission have the scope or ability to support the increase in access to disability advocates for both NDIS participants and non-NDIS participants? And the short answer, no. But in gathering all of the issues in that, I think this is an issue that we're going to see repeatedly expressed by a lot of people. And it's our responsibility to actually record that and to message that to the Commission leaderships and to our governing ministers.
Cool.
Like, I actually understand that this is announcing a slightly new era for the Commission, and that it's slightly more than what the Commission has done thus far. So that's why it's really quite exciting to have a new commissioner that's interested in all people with disabilities, and to also being in that engagement space myself, being able to connect to lots of people and get their ideas. Okay, so Andrew and Simon, we said that we'd only go for an hour. We've now got 55 minutes. Is there just any questions that you have or any other things that you'd like to ask?
Off the top of my head, nothing at the moment. You've covered an awful lot of information, but I'll wrap that up. Simon, have you got anything you'd like to add?
Not really. Yeah, I think, it's been a great presentation, and you've told us a lot about what the Commission can do. Generally speaking, though, I think it'd be good to I don't know if you can provide this on short notice, but if somebody was to put in a complaint about a service, how quickly will they get a response from the Commission?
If somebody puts in a complaint about a service and they call the 1-800 number, they get spoken to on the day. They usually get their complaint acknowledged within a week where it's really urgent. As you know, we get a lot of complaints and we don't have a lot of staff. So it can take some time, but one of the things that the Complaints Commissioner is really looking at is how we get back to people and how we ensure that people who make a complaint feel heard, feel respected, and feel like their issues are being resolved. So that's also an area for improvement that we're working on.
Okay, so calling the 1-800 number would be the go in the first instance.
Yeah.
That's great. Has anybody got any final questions for Fran? Nothing's popped up. Okay, cool. So, Fran, on behalf of PDA and all the people who've participated here today. Thank you so much for your time. Personally, I've learned a lot, and I think the most important thing that I've learned is that all your work is underpinned by our basic human rights, and that's the most exciting part of it to me. So I want to thank you on behalf of my board and my staff and all the people represented here for giving us your time today. And I look forward to seeing you in our social hangouts and also for our youth guys. So we'll get you along there as well, and let them you can have a chat to them as well. So thank you very much. And for everybody, have a lovely evening. Good night wherever you are in Australia. I've still got a couple of hours of work to do, and we'll see you all at our next one. So thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, and thank you, everyone.